Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Glassix Spotlight. Today's episode is nothing short of extraordinary as we're joined by none other than Jim Iab, the Chief Customer Officer of Etech Global Services. Jim is a titan in the world of customer experience and outsourcing solutions. With 30 years under his belt in inbound, outbound chat, analytics, AI, and social media, he's the go to expert for businesses seeking innovations and effective customer service strategies. His track record is impressive, to say it the least. Jim's been instrumental in developing and implementing award winning programs that deliver consistent ROI, and his insights are sought after in the industry. He's a CX Hall of Fame awardee and recognized as one of the top 25 thought leaders for 2023 by ICMI. But what truly sets Jim apart is his passion for driving change and staying ahead of the curve in outsourcing solutions and service delivery. He's not just a leader in the field, he's a visionary shaping the future of customer experience. So, listeners, get ready for an insightful journey into the world of customer experience and beyond. Jim, welcome to Glassix Spotlight. We're thrilled to have you with us.
Ron, thank you so much. I am so excited. It is a beautiful day today. I am pumped up and excited to talk to some of your listeners and actually talk about this whole world of customer experience.
Great. So, Jim, before we dive into the deeper discussions, could you share with us a bit about your journey at Etech Global Services? I mean, the innovations you're currently focused on, and perhaps some insights from your recent accolades and publications.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really cool story, and it's really humbling to see where I started. So I am old, but I started my career as an agent back in the '90s when you had green screens. So luckily for me, my boss, his name's Matt Rocco. He is the CEO and president of Etech, but it's not my first round with him. I worked for him with a company called Dun and Bradstreet, and I remember this. I walked into his office one day, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I'm looking around. I didn't even know who this guy was. He was like the director of the contact center at the time, and I'm like looking at his desk, and I was like, "Man, I'd like to have your job someday." And for whatever reason, he actually mentored me in my career at Dun and Bradstreet. And then he left Dun and Bradstreet and was recruited to come run these companies for Etech. Uh, and 30 days after he left, he recruited me to come help him run the operations of what is Etech today. I joined the company in 2000. It was actually owned by a wholly owned subsidiary of Bell South. It was called Berry Direct. And 2 years after we left from Pennsylvania, moved our entire families to Texas, they decided to divest of all the assets because they said, we're going to outsource this. It was an internal call center. So Matt took the company private in '03. That's when Etech was born. I'll fast forward you till today. So today, back then we had one call center in Nacogdoches, Texas. Today we operate in 3 countries, 10 sites, 3,600 employees, and we've grown this business with no mergers, no acquisitions, no venture capitalists. It was all boots on the ground type of experiences. And I ran ops for 2 decades at Etech. And then I became a chief customer officer during this time. But it's just, I have a different insight because I actually started as an agent and I looked at some of the things that frustrated me. And when we started Etech, I went to my boss and says, "Hey, there's got to be a better way to do this." I looked for techs, I looked for these things, these people that promises you dreams, and I really didn't see the surgical insights you can get from a customer experience spot. And I said to him in I think it was like '04, I was living in India setting up our global operations at the time, and he's like, "So what do you think we should do?" And I said, "I think we should build our own." And he's like, "Go ahead and do it." So we actually built our own CX platform. And uh, about 6 years ago, our customers have been getting this data for decades from an ops perspective, and they started coming to us and saying, "Man, I wish I can get this on your competitors. I mean, your competitors don't give you this type of insights." So we actually spun that company up to Etech Insights, which we call it today. And that's the organization that falls under me today. And literally, we have about 43 customers who use us just for the analytics and the insights. We still have our call center and the BPO, and they get it obviously inclusive. But that's pretty much how my journey started. worked my way up to the ranks as an account leader, director, SVP, etc. And that's what landed me today. And I'm just happy and thrilled to be here and just talk a little bit about, how I got there, number one, and two, the cool things I've seen in the industry over the years.
Yeah, I just love your story, and I more love the fact that you started off as an agent. It's kind of funny because we always say here at Glassix that everything that we do, every feature that we develop, everything that we're doing inside of our platform is doing that with the agent in mind. Because our conception is we understand that the agent must be empowered, the agent must be happy with their job, and the agent must have assistance with AI and everything, but we'll get to that a bit later today, in order for the customers to be happy.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I find it, and that's how we see it. While other companies might be looking at more of a business type of metrics or business type of approach, we're doing pretty much everything with the agent in mind, because we know that in order to have a healthy, prosperous business, you need to have your agents happy and satisfied with their work environment.
Oh, agreed 100%. So think about it. I mean, our leaders taught us a long time ago. Without them, none of us have a job. And when you put all of your efforts into a philosophy like that, it's a game changer, 100%.
Yeah. So, for everyone who might be interested to know, today's episode called Anticipating Needs, the Rise of Predictive Support in the AI Era. Jim, how is AI transforming the landscape of predictive customer support in your
Yeah,
end?
so think about it. Like, when we go back to years and years that we've done this, what did we used to do? We listened to handful of calls per an agent, right? That's literally what we've done in the past. And all your information and all your data was biased because it was so small. So, one of the key changes I've seen is just the sheer amount of data you're able to contextually process, not only around the customers in those conversations with the agents at every touch point. Now you're able to know exactly what the customer wants, what they like, what they don't like, even how they would react to some rebuttals, based on statistical information versus a handful of calls. And what that allows you to do is now you're able to actually predict the customer's needs based on past purchases or past behaviors, and actually take this true, what I like to call customizable offer and a customized recommendation that's actually built to ensure that that consistency is there with your customers and it's not siloed like it used to be. And then that enables you to anticipate what customer issues really are like. Whether it's incorrect password, a bot pops up with the wrong information, or basically they, make it effortless, which I like to use that word, like the reset process, so it's minimal effort on your customers. And what I think that helps you also do is reduces agents' effort where AI enables the agent to do so much more in their current job by predicting that behavior, providing that agent assist in real time, as you and I are both passionate about. And obviously, from a training perspective, it allows you to guide micro learning sessions to them. So now, as an agent, I don't have to wait 5 days to get coached. I can actually give them micro learning in almost real time, which literally helps you predict KPIs based on the future. And last thing I would say is, when you're I think training is one of the things people don't talk a lot about in AI, and I do. If you can predict training needs and provide agents that in almost real time, that actually helps you fix that skill issue in the moment. Because training, a lot of people talk about training. Well, how long is training? At Etech, we say training is a journey, it's not a destination. So you have to continually train and enhance that agent with their skill sets to actually make sure they're in the moment when they're talking to your customer. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's not even a one size fits all.
Yep.
Each agent has their own abilities, their own learning curves. And I think that when you do that in some sort of an advanced, personalized way, and you are able to predict um, your training journey, I think that that is huge. And you're not only, you know, let's say we're talking a lot about burnout, agent burnout. It's a hot topic, always was, I think. But I couldn't agree more. I think that this type of talking about agent training is for some reason overlooked by so many people in the industry.
Absolutely.
Jim, so can you provide an example where predictive support significantly enhanced the customer experience?
Yeah, I can. So I have a recent example.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at predictive support, we have a company. It's a global drug manufacturing customer, and they had a recent shortage. As you know, you might have heard this, the supply chain issues that we had during COVID. So
Yeah.
during that shortage, it lasted a few weeks, and they realized a lot of their customers who actually placed orders, they didn't get them. So what are they doing? They're calling back. What's the status of my orders? So what we did is we recommended, listen, let's send an email around this particular event and show a proactive guidance link that helps them make adjustments to the order, even find information like, when is the delivery date? So basically, you enhanced the experience of the customer. They were expecting like if I'm correct, I think it's about a 20% spike in their call volume, right? Because that's usually what happens when you have supply chain issues, they said. And what we did by doing this proactive, let's reach out to the customer because we know they're going to start calling. And it actually went down to like I think it was like a reduction of about 25% to about 15% with just sending that proactive email. That's kind of what we did in a predictive because we knew it was going to happen. Let's make it effortless. Let's do the outreach first via email. Let's do everything we can online, and then of course your calls will come in for the more complex issues.
Wow. That is staggering numbers, actually. And what we're trying to do here is we're actually doing is we're helping with call deflections in call centers. And it's kind of connect to what you just mentioned in a way, but we're helping a lot of call centers to deflect phone calls to digital channels in around 35%, which is a huge savings in terms of operational costs.
Yeah, you and I should have been friends when this thing happened because I didn't have any call deflection strategies at the time, and neither did this customer. So we went with something they already had that we could deploy. See, we should have met months ago. We would have been we could have had a better case study. But now we know if we're going in the future.
Exactly. True that. Well, Jim, so what are the key technologies driving the evolution of predictive support? What do you see happening nowadays?
So I think it's a combination of about four things that come to top of mind, right? And I also think that they have to complement each other. Number one, ASR, right? To generate your data, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be top notch. And we can talk hours on ASR. People are looking for this. People tell me all the time, how accurate is the ASR? You know, a human being makes mistakes, by the way. So don't think a machine is going to be flawless either. But it's really what you can do with it, right? When you get that ASR done, you have to compile it with your machine learning models, right, to detect those patterns. Because you have to, this machine and these people that talk about machine learning, let's make one thing perfectly clear. The machine is only as smart as the person who programmed it. So, like anything, it detects the patterns, but you need that human intelligence to actually fine tune that contextual data. And then the third one is like role based visualization, right? So that's really when the technology could present the information to every user based on what they need to excel at their role, which is what we call next best actions. And then finally, number four, that data scientist and analytics capabilities. That's really where Etech thrives, which is that human intelligence. These are data scientists, data analysts, and their capabilities to build and continuously evolve the model. I use this, I'm going to date myself. You might not know this one, but analogy I use is a lot of people think they buy AI or any type of technology and they think it's like Ron Popeil's rotisserie, which was the huge commercial back in the day, set it and forget it. That is farthest from the truth from any machine learning technology I've ever seen. They do learn, but it takes that human intelligence to teach it and continuously evolve the model, especially when you have new customers coming in that have a whole new talk track than what we used to talk about in the old days.
Right. I'm actually eager to hear like a real life story of Etech and this technology. If you have something, you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a huge reservations company, and they came to us with a problem. They had about 600 agents globally. Etech was not the contact center. They came to us and says, "Listen, I'm at a 29% conversion goal. My goal is 30%. I'm thinking, man, you know what? I think I need to change the goal." I said, well, wait, before we change any goals, let's go ahead and analyze the data. They were not using AI. They were literally listening to a handful of calls. We ingested about 135,000 phone calls for 6 vendors in the 30-day time frame, right? Over 30 days. And what we found was there was three things happening on all these sales calls: asking for sale, creating urgency, and handling objections. And I remember the SVP was saying, "Jim, this is normal." He's like, this is table stakes." He goes, "This doesn't tell me anything." He's like, by the way, to be on my program, you have to ask for the sale on every call. So I showed him the next piece of data. I said, interesting, because your best vendor is at 59% asking for the sale. Your worst vendor's at 20%, which talks to what we said at the beginning, right? Now you have volume and velocity of data. You're actually able to look at it. Then I was able to dig down. We were able to dig down even farther. And we actually laid this across all the agent population to see who's doing best. There was a handful of agents that were like 50% conversion rate. And if you looked at those, you're able to actually see how they're doing it. And then you're actually able to see these people probably aren't even being coached because they're top performers. And then you look at the bottom stack where you see your outliers that weren't doing it. So we put these tremendous training opportunities in to take you to the end of it. Long story short, over a 90-day period, right, where they engaged DTech to help them coach, train, deliver the training to these 6 vendors. They took a 2% lift in conversion rate. You might, and the listeners might say, that's not really a lot. Let's put it in context. It was a $500,000 in incremental revenue over a 90-day period. It was a 2,000 basis point improvement for that particular customer. And on top of that, while we were there and looking at all that data to drive conversion rate, we actually reduced hold time by 22%, which actually allowed them to increase their call handling by 31%. And we took the effectiveness of the agent up by 8 percentage points. I mean, that's a great study of across the world, customer experience and sales.
Yeah, I was expecting customer support or customer service use case, but you wowed me with this sales one. Wow, big numbers there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess no much sacrificing from their end. So that's
By the way, Etech actually won the work, so we're actually one of their contact centers now. We weren't because of our out of the 6 vendors, 5 of them listened to us, and one of them was actually old school and didn't want to listen. So we ended up terminating that contract and gave Etech the work. And Etech has been number one, number two vendor for the past 18 months. And the only person we lose to is their internal team, which is a compliment. And I guess the how would I say it? I guess if you use the data in the way it's supposed to be used and execute on the strategic plans, it works.
oh, totally. And to your point, I would say that I also have a strong background in marketing ops. And I can tell you this that first of all, you need to know how to handle data. Second, you need to know how to pull out and use actionable insights from this data. And last is how you create the blueprint around your project. I mean, everything is in today's world, everything is based on data, right? All the decisions we make are data based. And what I'm trying to say here is that providing the data is one thing, but getting the actionable insights, know how to actually act on them, that's a completely different story. And I think you could agree here.
Oh, 100%. And that's really where you think about the holy grail of any analytics company or anybody that says they can do this data right from the technology is an enabler. No disrespect to my tech people out there. Technology is an enabler. At the end of the day, it's that human beings that make the difference. And you need to have those people that actually know how to take the people are the center of whatever model you're using that actually creates the data to make it surgical, to tell you who, what, why, where, when, and how it happened. That's really where the tech comes in. And then the people side of it says, okay, so now that I know it, what do I need to do to fix it? And I argue with people in the space all the time because they say, well, crap, my leaders should know how to do that. Well, yeah, they should, but let's be honest. We've grown so much and we put people into roles that probably weren't ready to be in that role. So they need help. And you're not coaching them effectively. So let's give them the tools to be successful and let's show them the way to use the data. And then over time, they are going to be great. I mean, I just published a blog recently about fancy dashboards don't work, right? And that's one of my pet peeves about the industry. These tech guys who sit in an office with their lights off solve problems that really aren't problems for the call center. And I'm not knocking them because I used to own IT, right? But they've never taken a call a day in their life and they have no domain expertise. So you need that domain expertise to actually tell you what's the next thing to do. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it is. So I want to go back to data, and a bit more about in terms of customer support. So how do companies ensure accuracy and reliability in AI's predictive analysis for customer support, Jim?
Yeah, it's actually simple. Humans need to be that center, like we talked about, of every model that is created. When you use humans to retrain, provide feedback, and make decisions, that's the holy grail that a lot of people miss because a lot of people will sell tech, say, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You're going to deploy this technology, it's going to solve all your problems. It's the biggest scam in the industry beyond COVID. At Etech, we promise 85% accuracy for every event we tag. And how do we do that? Because we're using human beings. We've tagged at Etech close to a 500 million events just this year alone. And when you look at sheer numbers, we're very accurate. And the only reason we're able to promise and achieve it is due to that human intelligence, which we coined. And if you use humans to identify blind spots, it also helps keep your models transparent. You don't have to worry about accuracy as much because we've already hit with the human intelligence all those blind spots the technology may have if it wasn't tuned accurately. Does that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so Jim, what ethical considerations should businesses keep in mind when using predictive models in customer service?
Yeah, four things off the top of my head, real simple ones. Enable human oversight. That's where Etech coined the word human intelligence. Number two, and I wrote a blog on this. It's coming out next week.
Amazing.
Avoid black box algorithms. So here's another story for you on this number two, this black box. So I tested out a technology one time. I handpicked 2,000 calls, which were all problem childs in the call center. So I already knew that they were all issues. The person came back to me and says, man, congratulations. Etech is just amazing. 93% CSAT. I said, you're out. They're like, what do you mean you're out? And we're out. I said, because you just told me it was a 93% CSAT. Yeah, your agents are doing great. I handpicked the calls. All the calls were problem child. And you're telling me they did great. How'd you get there? Oh, that's a proprietary algorithm we've created that does all, but you can't tell me how it got there. So I know it's wrong, number one, because I hand listened to these 2,000 calls. So that's why I tell people avoid the black box algorithms. Number three, regularly assess results and have standard checks and balances. Because remember, AI, with the amount of data coming in, is directional. And by the way, like I said earlier, humans make mistakes, people make mistakes, what we talked about, and so do machines. So regularly assess the results and make sure you have standard checkboxes in there to go in and ensure that the engines are fine tuned properly and hitting the right targets. And four, watch for human bias in the data. Don't train the model to find what your perception says is true. use the models to find out what the actuality of really what's happening. And I'll give you a story on this. When you take somebody who's listening to 3 calls on an agent who takes on an average about 800 to 1,000, and then you ingest all those calls for that agent, make no mistake about it, their true performance is coming to the top. But the first thing people want to do is argue that it's not accurate because I listened to 3 calls. Yeah, but I listened to 1,100, right? So you have to be careful of that biased data, and you got to teach people how to use the data accurately. And then you have to show them how you train that model to actually remove that perception that the data is not true.
Right. What I know about biased data from the marketing world, which is a bit different, is that if your data is somewhat biased, is because you're looking at vanity metrics. And
That's a good point.
I think that we all kind of, especially in marketing, I'm not sure how it goes in other spaces, but especially in marketing, we really like to tie ourselves with vanity metrics, from the stupidest things in the world, like the number of the followers of your company's LinkedIn page, for example. So stupid. Who cares about that? No, only
Yep.
marketers. So I think it kind of might be in a way reflects to where and might be meeting the customer service or customer support or CX professionals in a way.
Agreed. And think about it, it's no different than Facebook. Like if you look at Facebook back in the day, what did everybody want? Likes. Likes has no attributable ROI on it. It's a like, big deal, right? And I'm with you on the marketing side. I mean, think about what marketing does from a survey perspective. Like I wrote a blog probably 6, 7 months ago about why surveys don't work. You're making all your decisions on biased information. Let's be honest, it's a 4% response rate, maybe 10% if you're really good. And let's be honest, why do people fill out surveys for marketing? A, you went above and beyond, physically impossible on every interaction. B, right, you went above and beyond, or B, you pissed me off so much that I have to freaking complain about you, right, which is the outliers. Or C, you bribed me with a $20 Starbucks gift card to fill out your survey, right? When you have analytics and ingest 100% of the interactions, guess what? Now you're going to see all the people who probably wouldn't complain who are about to leave because you've looked at all of the data.
Right. So, Jim, before we wrap up, I'm really curious about this one. How do you see predictive customer support evolving in the next decade?
Yeah, that's a cool one. I think in the next decade, there's going to be a lot of stuff like what we're seeing now. Like think about all the fraud going on there, right? I mean, look at all the scammers out there. So you see fraud via phone now, you see it chat, right? And what they've done there is they're making it real difficult for those fraudsters to do it because now you got two-factor authentication, right? So we've seen that, which is a positive, but fraud is still out there, right? So there's going to be more technology coming out, like the deep fakes now. Microsoft has just put something out to, because you have those deep fakes where they can take a snippet of your conversation and make it look like you. I think the unified customer data platforms that are coming out in the market now, we've created one that we're actually using now, and I think that's going to be a game changer. Let's eliminate data silos. How about giving me a single view into all my customer preferences and issues? Right now, it doesn't exist a lot because if you think about it, you got to log into one platform to get one thing, log into another, get another. You're actually, let's take that data and put it all together, which is what Etech is doing today. And we're real proud of that stuff because I think it's easier to get your data in one platform, one spot, so that you can actually look at it, quality to call center metrics, to marketing, to survey. And then instead of these fancy dashboards that everybody talks about, I'm pretty passionate about this. Visualization will let you perform your own analysis. But at the same time, which I think the industry is missing, what are my next best actions that are going to become more relevant? That's really the key. I have the data, 2 million data points. What do I do with it? The visualization has got to get better in the upcoming decades. And to what you do, I think bots they're going to be like the natural support of conversation. And then I think you're going to have a fallback to a human, maybe like a tier 3. I think the bot technology coming out is getting so much better. And yours, like we talked about earlier, Like that whole idea to humanize this bot, to handle those conversations, whether it be a chat or a voice bot, to actually help people get their problem solved quickly. Because the average consumer has the attention span of a goldfish. And the reason some bots don't work, or some of the stuff that I've seen in the industry, is because they weren't coded correctly. They don't seem human. So now when you build that out, and I think it's going to get even better and better, I think what'll happen now is a lot of this customer service and customer experience issues we're seeing in the industry are going to get better, because now you're really going to be talking to people that are more skilled to handle more complex issues. And last but not least, I think the automated agents quality monitoring and conversational analytics are going to become second nature. That's what Etech has built its bread and butter on. We've actually done QA better than anybody else has done, which is why our business has grown organically, because we actually understand conversational analytics. We actually understand how you tie QA to conversational analytics. And not only are you able to provide feedback to the agent to make them better, you're actually able to give your customer a lot of analytics about what's happening. Like, we created algorithms called voice of customer sentiment analysis, which is simply taking all the conversations and dropping them into a bucket based on that entire conversation. Was it a promoter, detractor, or neutral? That's where I go back to the why I don't like surveys, right? You look at the data. I think that's going to become second nature to give you a more broad picture of what's really happening. It's also going to help people that sell products. So, as an example, when you're analyzing, remember, customer in a conversation with an agent will tell them everything they like about you, what they hate about you, your product, your brand. And when you can harness that data, that's what's really going to evolve over the next decade, in my opinion.
Right. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming today. It was such a great talk. To our listeners who wants to follow Jim on his LinkedIn, I highly recommend of doing that for more CX insights. Jim, thank you so much for coming today. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to another one.
Sure.